Welcome to this episode of Let Go of the Pen podcast. We're the Melindas from Hoosier Hills Recovery,
a ministry of Hope Baptist Church in Dillsboro, Indiana. Remember, it's all about letting go of the pen and letting God write your story.
Today's episode is very special to me. We are joined by my stepdaughter, Ashley Hubbard. She's a current peer recovery coach. And if you watched episode 4 with Greg Smallwood, her dad, you'll get a head start to some of her tough times in her story. Ashley is a great daughter and a great friend to me. Ashley, tell us your story.
Okay, my name is Ashley, and I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I am in recovery. I was born in Columbus, Indiana in 1988. When I was about 7 years old, we moved to North Vernon to Country Squire Lakes. Not long after we moved, my parents divorced. That's really where things started to shift for me. A few years later, my mom remarried to a great man. He helped give us a good life, and we always had what we needed. I always did pretty well in school. But as a kid, I didn't see it that way. All I wanted was my dad. I grew up with a younger sister that didn't seem to be affected in the same ways that I was. She was only 2 when my parents divorced, so things were pretty normal for her. I held on to all of my feelings so tightly that I wasn't very nice to my stepdad for a long time. Even though he was really good to us, I just couldn't understand why my real dad wasn't there, and my hurt turned into anger. Meanwhile, my dad turned to drugs and alcohol. Even though my mom tried to protect us from the truth, his decisions affected me a lot. By middle school, I started hanging out with the wrong crowd. I had a lot of freedom, not much supervision, and I didn't make good choices. I started smoking cigarettes, and at 14, I smoked weed for the first time. I stayed at houses with no rules intentionally where we could drink, smoke, and do whatever we wanted. By high school, partying had become normal. Eventually, my mom stopped letting me and my sister see our dad because she knew he was using and cooking meth. And that's when I really started to rebel. I was angry. I didn't care what he was doing. He was my dad. I started sneaking to see him once I got my license, and that's when I started to realize that he was living a completely different life. There were always random people around. Sometimes he would give me money and send me to the mall for a few hours. At that time, I thought he was the coolest. Looking back now, I know that he was trying to protect me from what he had going on. In 2005, when I was 17, my dad was arrested for manufacturing meth. I'll never forget that day. My mom came into my room, threw the newspaper down, and said, "This is why you're not allowed to see your dad." But I still went. I figured out how to set up visits at the jail, and I don't think I missed a single visit. I just wanted my dad. In 2006, I graduated high school. I started working as a CNA and even went to college for nursing. From the outside, it looked like I was doing good, but behind the scenes, I was still a very wild child. I was drinking every weekend and smoking weed daily. In 2007, I met my husband, and we continued that lifestyle together. In 2008, we started dabbling with meth here and there. We didn't think it was a problem, just something to add to the fun. In 2009, we got married. In 2010, I found out I was pregnant. It wasn't hard to stop using at that time. In 2011, my daughter was born. We had jobs, a home, and for a while, life was good. But addiction is patient. What started as every now and then turned into every Friday when we got paid. Then we were using all weekend. Then we were needing a little more just to get through Monday. That's when things changed. We started having run-ins with the police. My husband was going to jail quite often, and life became chaotic. In 2013, my husband was in jail, and I found out I was pregnant again. But this time, I was a heavy user. When I went to the doctor, I found out I was already almost 5 months along. I had been using the whole time. I was selling drugs to pay bills, and in that moment, everything hit me. That was the moment I realized I had a real problem. It was so much harder to stop using this time. In 2014, my son was born healthy by the grace of God. There were no issues, no DCS cases, but my marriage was falling apart. We were both heavy users. And through all of it, my husband took all the charges. He always said to me, "One of us has to be home with the kids." Because of him, I have no drug charges or felonies to this day. But that didn't mean I wasn't losing everything. By 2017, my husband was in jail again. I was living at my mom's with my kids. And even then, I couldn't stop. I would put my kids to bed and I would leave. Sometimes I never even came home. DCS got involved. They asked me to take a drug test. I refused, and they took my kids. My mom got temporary guardianship, and I wasn't even allowed to be there, so I lost my home. I didn't see or talk to my kids from Halloween until Thanksgiving that year. Even through all of life's trials, I had never been away from my kids that long. This was a whole different level of pain and anger. That broke me, but even then, I didn't stop. It actually led to the darkest months of my life. I was homeless for the first time ever, running the streets, staying in trap houses, even breaking into empty rentals just to take a shower. With nothing left holding me back, I stayed higher than I ever had for longer than I ever had. At one point, I tried to quit. I slept for 48 hours straight. I didn't eat. I didn't even get up to use the bathroom. When I woke up, my body hurt so bad I couldn't even sit up on my own, and it didn't take long before I used again. That's how strong addiction had become. For about 90 days, I was completely out of control. I thought I could play the system, get high, and just stop long enough to pass drug tests, but that backfired. I had my visits with my kids set back farther and farther every time I failed for the smallest reading of meth or marijuana. Eventually, someone gave me a chance. They gave me a place to stay so I could get back on my feet. It wasn't my ideal spot, but it was much better than where I had been. In February of 2018, I started a job. I had been clean about 2 weeks, and for the first time in my life, I passed a drug test with my own pee. That was a proud moment for me. It wasn't easy. I had old boots that hurt my feet, and there were many days I didn't think I would make it. But all I could think about was my kids, so I kept pushing. After my first paycheck, I decided to buy a bag and flip it. In my mind, I just needed my own place to bring my kids home, and that was a much faster way to do it. That was a bad decision, trying to get ahead faster. And that led to my last relapse. But this time, I hated it. I felt ashamed, disgusted. I hid from the world for days, but I held on to my job and pushed through it one last time. My husband got out of jail. We got a place. We were both working and close to bringing our kids home, but then he relapsed. And that was one of the hardest lessons of my life, learning how to love an addict while fighting for my own sobriety. There were times I lied to DCS for him just to hold things together. But by the grace of God, my kids came home. But soon the chaos started again. He went back to jail, and I made the hardest decision of my life. I refused to lose my kids again, so I packed up, moved to Butlerville, cut off all contact, and didn't tell him where I was going. For the first time, I chose something different. After a few months, something didn't sit right in my heart. He was still a missing piece of our family. So I showed up to his court date unexpectedly. The judge offered house arrest if he had somewhere to go, and I gave him one last chance. For the first time, he followed through. He successfully completed house arrest, and we were finally living life. We felt like a family again. But in 2021, he was arrested again for a case that was opened in 2019. This time, it was much more serious. He was all over the news, and people were tearing my family down on social media without even knowing our story. That was hard. At the same time, we had taken in his 14-year-old daughter. So I became a single mom to 3 kids while helping him fight the biggest case of his life. That pressure tested everything, and while I didn't go back to meth, I became a full-blown alcoholic because the addict in me said I couldn't handle life. But today, I'm proud to say that I made it out. My husband is home after 3.5 years, and he's going on 7 years sober. I'm over 8 years free from meth and 3 years free from alcohol. I still have my job that helped save my life. I bought my first home, my first car, and all 3 of my kids are home. We've gotten 1 through high school, and the other 2 are thriving, and we now have a granddaughter. I just became a certified peer recovery coach, stepping into a calling to help others who are exactly where I used to be, because I know what it feels like to lose everything. I know what it feels like to be stuck, and I also know what it feels like to be set free. So if you feel like you've gone too far, like you've messed up too much, like there's no way out, I'm living proof that there is. God can take your broken pieces and build something beautiful. My story didn't end in addiction, and yours doesn't have to either.
It's an amazing story. And I know you read it because so you wouldn't get mumbled jumbled, but that's an amazing story. And your dad and I didn't even know you went through all that you went through. You kept it hidden so well, and even the pain that you're suffering, like with shoes and stuff, I never knew that you needed shoes, you know. But the fact that it was something for you to do for your kids, and that's amazing.
So I know we met early on in our program here at Hoosier Hills, and I've been amazed to see your growth and your ambition, as well as the life has just fallen back into place. You know, Mike, you know, coming home and the kids and everything, your job. What is one thing you want people to know about addiction? Talking more like the people that don't know anything about addiction, what was one thing you would want them to know?
That addiction can take anybody. It doesn't matter if you grew up in a rough house or if you grew up in a great house. It doesn't matter if you are the town sheriff's daughter or the pastor's daughter. Addiction doesn't judge, and
There's no boundaries
It
for
can
it.
hit anybody. So just not being judgmental and just lend a helping hand. Don't shame people for what it looks bad to you, but it might be not what you think it is.
Yeah, you never know someone's story. I know a lot of times in the jail, they don't share all their story because they can't with all those other ladies there. But when they get out and we go out to lunch with them and they start sharing, it's some of the things that people went through. Not that you have to go through anything like that to get in heart addiction or anything, but sometimes I think people will be definitely ashamed of giving people, judging people that even God wouldn't judge. He said he didn't come to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. And when I hear their stories, it brings heartache.
We even recently got a letter from one of the ladies at the jail that shared a lot of detail of their struggles, and from the outside you wouldn't have even known half of what they were truly going through. It was truly a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I like that. Nice.
So if there is someone watching this video that's currently suffering addiction, what is one piece of advice you would tell them?
Just keep trying. So I read a statistic one time that it takes the average person 11 attempts to get it right when it comes to addiction. So meaning that some people can go to rehab once, some people can go to rehab 12 times, some people don't even have to go to rehab. So everybody's different, everybody's story is different, and everybody's recovery is different. And I know that all these groups and people say you got to do it for yourself. And I'm going to be the oddball, and I'm going to say that don't listen to that. If that's not working for you, don't listen to that, because that's what they kept telling me is you have to do it for yourself. You have to do it for yourself. And eventually you have to do it for yourself. Eventually you have to find the peace in your own heart, and you have to do it for yourself. But to start with, to come out of addiction, find your reason. Like my reason was my kids. At that point in time, I didn't care about myself. I didn't care about anything else except for I had never been away from my kids. So my reason was my kids. Today, yes, a lot of it's for myself, my own peace.
Yeah.
I think starting out like in the jail, when we've talked to ladies, starting out when they're so far beat down and they don't feel worthy of love, you can tell them we love you, and some of them break it just us telling them that because they've not been told that. Or we tell them we love you, but God loves you more. And they struggle with that because they don't believe that they're worthy of the love that we tell them that God has for them. And it takes a while of working on that relationship with them before they realize, when they start reading their Bible or they start praying, that God really does love them like we're telling them. And they start to come out of that and start growing and grasping at things to make life better.
Yeah. I know that in 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing an episode on miscarriage or death of a baby. And one lady that's currently in the jail, and she gave me permission to use her name, and I'm not going to use it now, but in her journal that she's been journaling, and they have booklets that they work on, assignments every week. They don't have to, but if they want to, they can. And in 2 weeks, I get to read a little bit of her story of when she lost her daughter. And when I was just glancing over this, and it's been months ago since she did this one particular assignment, but the pain, and because she didn't know God, she couldn't understand how a God could do this. And in this little paragraph that she gives me here, she dives down to some amazing faith and trust in the Lord. And I know one thing, though, that getting into a program, whether it's our program here at Hoosier Hills Recovery or peer-to-peer, or I know you go to outreach Outcast Arms Outreach,
Mhm.
because you're in North Vernon, and there's so many programs out there, and people, your connections, like we always say, connect. In Hoosier Hills Recovery, we connect with God, we connect with others, and we connect with ourselves. And those connections are so important because you can't, most likely, you're not going to be able to do it alone. You need other people. And I know I'm sitting here, sorry. But as we close out our episode of Let Go of the Pen, I want to take a moment to thank you for being on the
Thanks
show
for having me.
and for letting us, our listeners, get into your world a little bit. Ashley, you're also a big part of Outcast Arms Outreach in North Vernon. Could you tell us a little bit about that program?
Yeah, so we have a recovery lounge in North Vernon. It's at 412 East O&M Avenue. We hold recovery meetings on Mondays at 7:30, Tuesdays at 7 o'clock. Thursdays, we have a 9 a.m. and a 7 p.m. meeting. And on Fridays, we do Celebrate Recovery at 7 o'clock.
So if you're in North Vernon and you can't make it out to Dillsboro, or even if you want to do both, we're on Wednesday night at 6. And this is it is every day, Monday through Friday, right?
Except Wednesday.
Except Wednesday.
Yeah.
So perfect.
Perfect opportunity to hit them all.
Did them all, yeah.
Mhm.
So if you enjoyed hearing Ashley's stories, please give us a like and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more great content.
Leave us a comment or send us an email at letgoofthepen@gmail.com. Remember, there is hope for healing because if you still have a heartbeat, God still has a purpose for you. And as always, remember to let go of the pen and let God write your story.
Bye.